This is Greg. Greg is dangerous. These are Greg's friends. They're also dangerous. They're dirty and mean. They make things smell. They scare off wildlife. They kill plants. They make you sick. And worst of all, they like to go swimming in your water. But what is Greg? Greg is something we call non-point source pollution. Non-point source pollution is pollution that comes from multiple sources. To better understand Greg and non-point source pollution, let's take a look at someone else who also likes to go swimming in your water. This is Gina. Like Greg, Gina has many friends. All of them are dangerous. However, Gina is different than Greg because Gina is point source pollution. Point source pollution is pollution that comes from a single source, such as a factory. To protect our water from Gina, we can place regulations on factories and other sources of point source pollution. On the other hand, Greg comes from the little things we do every day. This actually makes Gina less dangerous than Greg because, while we can regulate factories and businesses, it is much more difficult to regulate people and their everyday activities. When we get runoff caused by rain or melting snow, Greg and Greg's friends are carried into local water sources and eventually end up in the Great Lakes. You see, Michigan is divided up into what we call watersheds. A watershed is described as a geographic area through which water seeks a common outlet. To better understand watersheds, let's take a look at the Kalamazoo River watershed. The Kalamazoo River is one of Michigan's primary rivers, and it runs into Lake Michigan. Its watershed not only refers to the Kalamazoo River itself, but anything that involves the movement of water into the Kalamazoo River, from small streams to rainwater off a parking lot. Therefore, everything that goes down the Kalamazoo River into Lake Michigan, be it by the shape of the ground, the weather, or people, is one watershed. This is how Greg gets into the Great Lakes and pollutes them, regardless of how big or small a watershed in Michigan is. Our watersheds all end at the Great Lakes, dumping everything that has been carried into the rivers, streams, and other sources of water right into the lakes. That's so many Gregs! If there are too many of them, they can cause a decrease in wildlife populations and make our water unsafe for business, recreation, bathing, and drinking. But why is it so important to stop Greg? The Great Lakes make up 20% of all the usable fresh water in the entire world. To better understand what that means and why it's important, let's take a look at it in cups of water. Let's say we put all the water in the entire world into 100 cups, and you're thirsty. Not a problem, right? There are 100 cups right there. Unfortunately, 99 of those cups are salt water. Drinking salt water would not only make you sick, but it would make you even more thirsty. Only this one cup has fresh water in it, and while one cup seems enough to make you not thirsty anymore, it's really more complicated than that. If we take a closer look at this single cup of fresh water, 69.5% of it is frozen inside glaciers, and 30% is deep groundwater. The truth is, all we really have is this very tiny sip of water. Less than 1% of all the fresh water in the entire world. We refer to this tiny sip of water as usable surface water. It is called usable because it is the only fresh water we can access to use for everything, from drinking and bathing to the water in your fishbowl. As the glaciers melt due to climate change, the fresh water frozen inside ends up in the ocean and becomes salt water. And the deep groundwater is so deep we can't even get to it. Therefore, this tiny sip of usable surface water is all that we have to share with the entire world. Remember how we said the Great Lakes make up 20% of all the usable fresh water in the entire world? This is that usable fresh water. 20% of this tiny sip can all be found right here in the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes are also the largest collection of usable fresh water in the entire world, with the rest being scattered into smaller lakes, rivers, streams, and swamps. Now imagine you're going to drink from that tiny sip and someone spits in it. Who would do such a thing? Greg would. And where did Greg come from? Us. If we let the Great Lakes become so contaminated from pollution that they can't be used, it's like we're spitting into that tiny sip of water that is meant for everyone in the entire world to share. As residents of Michigan and the Great Lakes region, that water is our responsibility. It is our responsibility to keep it clean and safe, not only for ourselves, our friends, and our families, but everyone all around the world. Once that usable fresh water in the Great Lakes is gone, it's gone forever, and we can't get it back. Greg might be the one polluting the Great Lakes, but we're the ones that put Greg into the Great Lakes. So, how do we stop Greg? Well, if we're the ones that put Greg into the Great Lakes, we're the ones that can get Greg out. Since it's the little things we do every day that create Gregs, then it is also the little things we do every day that can prevent Gregs, such as washing cars in the grass instead of the driveway, and using eco-friendly soaps, cleaning up after pets, providing farm animals with a separate source of water, and placing fences to prohibit access to waterways, not using fertilizer or pesticides at all, or not fertilizing gardens or spraying pesticides on lawns before it rains, placing silt fences around construction sites to prevent runoff from leaving the site, picking up trash and properly discarding it into trash receptacles instead of on the ground, keeping dumpsters and outdoor trash receptacles closed or sheltered from the weather, keeping cars well maintained so they don't leak dangerous fluids. We have a responsibility to ourselves and the world to protect our Great Lakes and their fresh water. It may seem small, but it has a massive impact on our future. You can be a part of that impact. You too can help save the world one drop of water at a time and one less Greg at a time. Want to know more? Be sure to visit inghamcountydraincommissioner.org for more information. That website, https://inghamcountydraincommissioner.org. You can also share this video with your friends and family to help them learn more about the prevention of non-point source pollution. Thank you.